The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Josh Thomas and I'm here with Jonny Peters of GazeCoin.io. And GazeCoin is a blockchain token that monetizes augmented reality and virtual reality. Hey Jonny, how's it going?
Yeah, no, going really well. We're right in the middle of our ICO right now, so pretty exciting time.
Well, that's fantastic. You know, by the time this episode airs, your ICO will probably be over, and we can talk about that in a minute and all of the future successes that you're going to have. But tell us a little bit more about what this token actually does, and you know how you're separating yourself from the other tokens out there in this space.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, my background is I'm a film director and a virtual reality producer, and in the process of producing a number of VR games and worlds that I've produced recently, I really noticed that there was a huge piece of the pie missing, and that was monetization. There's no customized monetization for virtual reality or augmented reality, and it's the same technology. And I noticed that if you look at things like the current problems that you have with the 2D web with payment systems, there's a lot of issues with credit card fraud, and just getting your credit card out and paying for content is a problem in itself. And so I figured why import those problems into this new media realm where it's also new and exciting. It's almost like why import a payment mechanism that it's almost a barrier to the platforms expanding. So I started looking at like what would work in this space, and what you really need is when you're immersed in virtual reality, especially, let's start with virtual reality. When you're fully immersed, you can't get your credit card out. It's like when you're going from one virtual reality experience, you want to go to another one. You don't just want to sort of go in and go out. And so what you really need is a seamless mechanic where you can just kind of drift from one payment gateway to another, or one paid experience to another, or one premium experience to another, and have transactions occur seamlessly. So to start, that's kind of what you need that to work from the outset. Otherwise, there's the whole experience of being in a VR mode is already obstructed by payments. So that's the first thing. But the second thing, you look at the way that the blockchain works. It really is an opportunity to allow audiences or fans or whoever it is who's experiencing content to actually receive rewards for those interactions. So that was the second thing. I thought, why aren't gamers or consumers or fans in these VR spaces being rewarded for experiencing content, or even advertising? Which brings me to my next point. In the VR and AR space, there's no advertising at all at the moment, and advertising really is, everyone knows, it's the driver of media. Advertising is the whole reason why radio and TV have expanded, and without an advertising.
Let me ask you this about that point that you just made. There's no advertising right now in VR. Now, the common knowledge and understanding the world around us says that eventually that will happen. But I think that there's a certain sect of the tech community that wants to quote unquote solve that problem without bringing in marketers and advertisers, and those guys are like, just stay away from me. I get that that's kind of the mode of the tech crowd, but it's kind of inevitable. Do you see any way around it?
Yeah, no, I do, because the thing is, like, advertising doesn't have to be destructive. It doesn't have to like ruin your experience. It can be very much part of it, and especially in VR and AR. If we talk about virtual reality for a moment, I mean, if you could imagine walking along in a VR world, you look up and there's an ad, a billboard ad for a soft drink, and you look at the thing about VR, right? Is that when content doesn't trigger until you look at it, right? So that's the thing. There's a thing called gaze control that actually is the mechanic through which VR and AR worlds are built. And so what happens is, in that mode, when you're walking along, you might hear music coming from a particular direction. You might see a billboard in the distance. It's not until you look at it and engage with it does it trigger. So this idea of gaze control is kind of the very reason why we can get around this idea of advertising being, obstructive, because it's only when you engage with an ad does it actually play. And so the GazeCoin mechanic is that's when it monetizes. So really, it's up to the audiences or the fans or et cetera to engage with ads inside these environments. That's when the advertising starts to play. That's when the actual payment mechanism kicks in. So I think that's a logical way that advertising can really work inside these worlds. And I think with GazeCoin, the logical payment mechanism is that the advertiser only really pays for the amount of exact engagement that they get. So I think that's a really great way around it, and a really great solution. And I think you'll find that once that starts to work, advertisers will get an ROI on their advertising that maybe they're not currently getting. And then I think the next step after that, which is kind of exciting, is when the advertising becomes kind of like content. So you can jump into an advertiser's world and explore it, and it's exciting and fun, and you get rewards for being there. So this is how I see the evolution working.
So let's go back to the example that you gave of you're in this VR world and you see a billboard, or you hear some music, or maybe there's a TV in a shop window or something like that. Is that what your technology does? It adds those advertising elements into VR and helps you monetize it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's our technology really piggybacks off the mechanic that everyone has access to. Like gaze control, we don't own gaze control. Gaze control is the way that VR worlds and AR worlds are built. Like the idea of things being triggered. Now, there's one of the building blocks of AR and VR is this program called Unity. And Unity allows you to do these, to create these experiences, like to create the TV in the window or the music coming from a particular direction. All of that is how worlds are already constructed. So what GazeCoin's technology is really adding the blockchain underneath all of that, so that when you do engage with the TV or the billboard, that immediately upon that interaction, the monetization kicks in. So if you imagine GazeCoin creates a calculation based on the actual exact amount of time that audiences are engaging with an ad, and creates a blockchain transaction which rewards the consumer for engaging. So you earn GazeCoins for engaging. It bills the advertiser for that exact amount of time. So the advertiser pays for that amount of time that you've been engaging, and also obviously rewards the world owner for that experience. So what GazeCoin does is it creates the monetization mechanic hooking into the blockchain that allows these interactions to actually be monetized seamlessly and on the fly. And the blockchain, I mean, people could say, well, why do you need the blockchain? What the blockchain does is it allows all of those interactions to be recorded in the blockchain and become auditable, so that way advertisers know exactly what they're paying for, and they can find out how successful their campaigns have been. So yeah, that's kind of
and that was my next question, and I think you answered it very well. Why? Okay, we can probably do this without using blockchain technology, but what you just added was, the advertiser is spending their money, and they want to be able to verify that so and so looked at this billboard for 5.3 seconds and that's what you got billed for, or something like that. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah, it's true. So that's one of the biggest problems with digital advertising just on the 2D web right now. Because if you look at Uber is suing their ad agency right now because they have no understanding whatsoever of where their advertising is working or not working. They have no understanding. They can't get any kind of readout on whether they're being ripped off or not, right? So this is a major problem that it's happening in advertising across the board, where no one really understands the value that they're getting for their ads, and it must be incredibly frustrating for the bigger advertisers to not even have any idea of what's working and what's not working. And then secondly, who's interacting and who's not interacting for how long for. I mean, this is almost the golden chalice for advertising to be able to spend money somewhere where you can find out all this information. So the blockchain is the key for delivering that return on investment invested for advertisers. And I mean, there's actually some even more exciting things that I can get onto as well if you want me to go further.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear that, but before we get into that, how long has the GazeCoin been in development?
Pretty interesting story. I actually did a master's in virtual reality, would you believe, back in 2010. It wasn't called virtual reality. It was called I did a master's in virtual worlds and virtual world film hybrids. It was called. But anyway, back then I looked at game currencies. I looked at different games. I looked at Second Life and people like other sort of immersive environments that had currencies, and I looked at how if currencies could be portable, if you could actually earn currencies in one world or one experience and then take them across to another one and use them somewhere else, that would be the key to these currencies becoming extremely valuable. Then I discovered the blockchain and Bitcoin in about 2012, and I actually ran I live in Sydney, Australia. I ran Australia's first blockchain Bitcoin conference to actually try and understand more. And then from there, that's when I really understood how I wanted to build this GazeCoin concept. So it's been a long time in I guess the theory behind how I wanted to build it and why came from a very learned background. And then it really it was only kind of 2017 where I finally was able to pull together the resources that I needed to get it built out how I really saw the vision. So yeah, so a long time in theory, a long time in planning, but execution's been 2017.
What were some of the main major challenges that you faced as you were realizing this vision?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge has been that there's definitely excitement about virtual reality, but also a very when's it really going to happen thing. So a lot of people seeing that the potential of GazeCoin, in VR when everyone's using it, right? But people sort of wondering when that killer app that gets mass adoption for VR is going to happen. That would be probably the biggest barrier that I've come across with people sort of understanding the potential of the economics of GazeCoin. But then my answer to that is that people sort of have forgotten or not really quite grabbed hold of the fact that augmented reality is the same thing. It's based on the same technology. Whether you're looking through a device that's strapped to your head, or you're looking through a device in your hand and triggering experiences, augmented and virtual are the same thing. So the AR wave is coming really fast, and in about I'd say a year's time, 13 to 18-year-olds are going to be, the real world will be an amazing adventure playground for AR apps. So yeah, the challenge has been to try and explain to people that VR is a great, use case for GazeCoin, but it's not the only spot where it's going to work. It's really going to I'm expecting it to be a major driver of helping augmented reality expand. And because if there was ever a place where you're going to need a seamless monetization mechanic, it's going to be in AR, because people aren't going to have time to put their phones on things and tap in a credit card every time, and the advertisers need things to happen quickly. So that to work. So yeah, it's been explaining to people the vision, I guess, of what's about to happen technology-wise. Yeah, that's been quite a challenge.
So, and I would say the easiest retail, mass exposure example I can come up with is if you walk into here in the U.S., we have Best Buy. You may have it there in Australia, or there may be something similar. It's just a big electronics store.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so there are displays. There's a Samsung display. There's an Apple display, et cetera, et cetera. And in every Best Buy that I walk into, they have the Samsung headset where you can put your smartphone into it and then wear it, and you create this virtual reality environment. And I would say, I know when I take my 10-year-old daughter in there, she just kind of puts that on and like forgets that that I exist as long as I'm there.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, as far as I've seen, that's the biggest exposure touch point for virtual reality outside of super enthusiasts. Like just regular common people walk in there and they're getting to interact with it. How long do you think it is before everybody looks at this as if, going to the back and getting one of the big 4K TVs, but instead where everybody is, submerging themselves in this virtual reality world?
Yeah, I think my prediction is that 2018 is the year of AR, the AR wave really hitting us, and it'll happen really quickly. Just the way Pokemon Go took over, we all saw just how fast that just went global, right? And the reason why it expanded so fast is because everyone's got a phone, right? So everybody can engage easily. So I think in 2018 you're going to see a whole lot of new augmented reality apps and experiences come out, and all of those, the clever ones, will have a virtual reality element attached to that. So you can imagine, you're at your 10-year-old, or let's say when she's 14, she might be at like an all ages rock gig or something. She can hold up her phone, to listen to the band through the phone, like actually capture an augmented reality layer of the band, that happens when you put the phone on the band. Next thing you know, she's invited to go to the VIP VR experience at home when she gets home. So I see that's what's going to happen. AR is going to drive VR. VR will be the VIP invitation you get from an AR experience that you came across in the real world. I really see that as being the way that it's going to work. We already have a lot of brands that come and talk to us about this exact thing. They're trying to get this idea of push and pull between VR and AR and have the whole thing sort of linked and driving consumers from one to the other. And it's a teen market. I mean, it's so appropriate that you said that there was your 10-year-old daughter, because they're the ones. Like I think we have all these discussions about when's VR going to happen. And we're all probably not the target market. If you get a VR headset and put it on a table somewhere in a park, you're going to have a line of teens trying to put it on and fighting over it. So
yeah,
I think we have to
that makes
remember
sense.
The target market is.
So it's an exciting and bright future ahead. And you had mentioned earlier in our conversation that you have some more kind of surprises up your sleeve. Talk to me a little bit more about where you see VR going, and if you can relate it back to your coin, that would be great. Just to how that drives the growth of VR. Yeah,
sure. So on our platform, GazeCoin is a decentralized blockchain platform. What that means is that it can operate kind of like Bitcoin, right? Anyone can just opt in, get a wallet, and start peer-to-peer exchanging it. So that's how GazeCoin works. But it's not just about the coin. It's about the fact that a brand or an artist can actually log into the network, create their GazeCoin wallet, and what they can do is they can generate their own currency. Technically, they can actually launch their own branded GazeCoin token. So if you can imagine, energy drink brand, logs into the network, they create energy drink world, and they build a big VR world, which is all basically, sponsored by the energy drink. It's got all their action sports stars in there, experiences, things like that. The audiences can move around inside there. What actually happens is that audiences can earn and can be rewarded in this energy drink coin. So it's all branded and feels amazing for the brand, and everyone feels very rewarded for going there. And then what happens is in our GazeCoin blockchain, the consumers that go into that energy drink world can then leave that world, go across what we call the metaverse, to the connected VR space, and jump across into another world, right? Which could be a music-driven world, and maybe it's like a record company world, and they're in there and they can actually go and experience all the music that is on offer in VR. But what actually happens is they can exchange their energy drink tokens for their music tokens as they cross between one world and the other. This is the sort of environment that we're creating. We're creating this, what we call our exchange technology, which allows people to just earn tokens or currency in one world, exchange them for tokens in another world. And it's almost creating this, it's creating a whole entire immersive economy for token earning and exchanging. And I think that's the really interesting part of this. And I think the last point that makes that really exciting is that what we think we've come up with is a mechanism for mass user adoption for virtual currencies, whereby anyone can log in and get a wallet, a GazeCoin wallet, earn tokens for experiences. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to buy currency to get involved. You don't have to buy Ethereum or work out how to get an Ethereum wallet or anything like that. You can just literally just opt in and away you go. So that's the key, I think, for the expansion of VR and AR, allowing users to get in easily and give them the rewards for engaging, and have it almost appear free.
Well, that is the ultimate goal. So it's interesting how you're bringing the monetization aspect into this, which will only further boost the development, because anytime there's an opportunity to make money, there will be investment. GazeCoin.io, and Jonny, you're just finishing up your ICO here, and it'll be done by the time our podcast is launched. So hopefully it was a successful launch for you. We'll be thinking about you here as it finishes. Any final thoughts for our audience before we go?
I just think that final thoughts would be just remember that if you've got a Christmas present that you want to, this will come out before Christmas, right? If you've got a Christmas present you want to buy your teen kids, buy them a virtual reality headset and a phone that works with the VR and AR, because it's the thing they're going to want next year. So perfect present for Christmas. There you go. Very
good. Jonny Peters from GazeCoin.io. Learn more at GazeCoin.io, GazeCoin.io. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time here on the Future Tech Podcast.
All right, thanks very much.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.